Hey guys, welcome to the next chapter, which is Virgin Dhando, and it is our third chapter of the Dhando Investor, written by Monis Pobras. So let's begin the day with the third chapter, Virgin Dhando. By now, you are likely thinking, look, these Patels and Manilal have done very well. My hats off to them. It's an entertaining story, but one that clearly cannot be replicated by the rest of us. I wouldn't even move in with my adult siblings and their families for several years to maximize our savings with the objective of building a mortal empire. I am not into working 100 hours a week or living with my family in a motel for years on end. You are probably also convinced that there is something about their family environment or gene pool that predisposes them to take this bizarre approach to life and business. The rest of us cannot embark on Dhando journeys like them because of this difference. To dispel that notion, let's take a look at another great Dhando entrepreneur who is not a Patel, does not build from Gujarat or India. He is from Surrey in England and is as flamboyant as they come. He is all about living life to the fullest and maximizing the fun, while Papa Patel and Richard Branson seemingly have nothing in common. They are inextricably linked in how they approach their business endeavors. But both are hardcore practitioners of Thando. Let's delve into the birth of Virgin Atlantic and learn how to start pretty much any business with minimal capital and virtually no risk. This is Dhando on steroids. The year 1984 and Richard Branson knew nothing about the airline business. He started his entrepreneurial journey at 15 and was very successful in building an amazing music recording and distribution business. Somebody sent Branson a business plan about starting an all business class airline flying between London and New York. Branson noted that when an executive in the music business received a business plan to start an airline involving a 747 jumbo jet, he knew that the business plan has been turned down at least 3,000 other places before landing on his desk. He was also aware that the other businessmen with a strong domain knowledge had turned it down. The business plan claimed that the sector was undeserved undeserved by the existing players. All weekend long he tried calling the other major discount airline flying that route but could never get though. His conclusion was that they either were loosey businessmen or were overwhelmed by demand, which meant that there was an opportunity to start competing against them. He also changed the original business plan significantly, opting for a unique dual class service. He thought about it carefully all weekend long. On Monday, he went to his partners and senior executives at the music business and told them of his interest in starting the airline. They told him, Richard, you have got to be off your rocker. They told him he had need a 747 jumbo jet, the most expensive plane around, and they asked, "Do you know what that cost?" They told him they had no interest and did not support his wild idea. Branson persisted. He called directory assistants in Seattle to get the main number for Boeing. When the receptionist answered, he said he had like to talk to someone about leasing a 747 jumbo jet after he was transferred several times. He got to what seemed like the right person and asked if Boeing had an old jumbo lying around. The guy said they did, and Branson asked if they would consider doing a 1 year lease. The Boeing employee, likely amused by British accent, said that they have a small list of customers, but they might consider doing such a lease with one of their regular customers. Branson persisted and asked for some numbers. Boeing gave him some ballpark numbers, and Branson figured out that his total outlay and maximum liability for starting Virgin Atlantic Airlines if it failed was just 2 million. His record company was on track to earn 12 million a year that year and 20 million the next year. Branson noted that in the airline business, with a single plane, he would pay for the fuel 30 days after the airplane landed, and for staff wages 15 to 20 days after the airline landed. But he would get paid for all the tickets about 20 days before the plane took off. Working capital needs in this scenario were pretty low, and with a very favorable short term lease from Boeing, there was no need to buy an airplane. Branson figured he could hire a small ground staff, place a few ads in the paper, and start taking reservations. Boy George's records were produced by Virgin and Branson, and he were good friends. To boost the morale of the early Virgin Atlantic employees and get them all excited, he took Boy George over the cargo hangar at Gatwick Airport, which served as the headquarters for Virgin Atlantic, to meet the staff. The employees loved it, but Boy George was quite stunned at the apparent chaos at the facility. He later told Branson, "I am glad my feet are firmly on the ground. It was a very messy startup." Now, if someone came up with this idea in Silicon Valley, there would be a fancy business plan put together along with the mandatory elevator pitch. It would be based on at least 60 million in startup capital to build out the basic infrastructure and so on. Branson did not go down this path. The business plan was done in weekend and resided in Branson's head. There was no business plan even written. There was no board of directors or advisors at a startup, no venture capitalist or angels. It was done by a person with no prior experience or expertise in the airline industry. My take on Virgin Atlantic is simply this: if you can start a business that requires a 200 million 747 jumbo jet and boatload of employees in the tightly regulated industry for virtually no capital, then virtually any business that you want to start can be gotten off the ground with minimal capital. All you need to do is to replace capital with creative thinking and solution. Brandon found a service gap and went after it. By the time that gap narrowed and British Airways and his other competitors woke up, and he had already built a strong brand. Even today Virgin Atlantic offers a very unique product in very tough industry. The Virgin Atlantic business model is pure dhando. Heads I win, tails I don't lose much. The Virgin Group today is a privately held group of 200 plus businesses with a 7 billion in annual revenue. It generates about 600 to 700 million a year in free cash flow. The common ingredient is in virtually all 200 plus businesses that there was very little money invested in any of them at startup. Heads I win, tails I don't lose much. In 2005, they put a line of electronic products called Virgin Pulse into Target stores. Target asked them to develop an exclusive line of designer personal electronic only for Target. Target guaranteed them prime floor space, so Virgin had zero distribution cost or risk. It had Eco, a chic design shop, create the line. They found a Chinese company to manufacture it, retaining good margins for Virgin. Virgin, and its downside was very limited and upside was huge. The parties who took much of the risk were the manufacturers, who had to commit capacity beyond confirmed orders, and Target, which had to set aside valuable shelf space in every store. To, to launch it, the Virgin Group leveraged Branson at New York party, dancing with some hot models wearing the Virgin Pulse line on their person. It put very little money into it. Classic dhando at work. Heads I win, I don't lose much. Another example of classic dhando is Virgin Mobile. Virgin cell phone service in the United States. Virgin Mobile does not own a sorry does not so in United States, Virgin Mobile does not own or operate a call phone network. Sprint provides the entire backend and delivers the service under the Virgin Mobile brand. Virgin targeted teens with this service and focused the offering to be very attractive to teens. Cool phones and phone skins, prepaid phone cards, and the teen-centric Virgin brand. Virgin's investment was very low. If it failed, It had virtually no downside. Sprint provided all the technology, billing, and customer service infrastructure. Virgin provided the branding and the product positioning, and it took a large chunk of profit if it worked. There was huge upside for Virgin and negligible downside if it failed. Virgin Mobile scaled very rapidly. It set a record for the fastest business to move from startup to over 1 billion in revenues less than 3 years. Again, it said, I win, tells I don't lose much. In 1997, Virgin team, along with the Royal Bank of Scotland, offered an innovative mortgage product under the Virgin Mortgages brand called the Virgin One account. This revolutionary mortgages product looked at any cash the borrower had in his or her checking account and netted it against the loan balance and only charged interest on the net loan balance. Again, Virgin has virtually no investment. The entire backend was handled by the bank. All Virgin provided was the brand and help with the marketing. Very little cash invested. In return, it got a good chunk of profits. Heads I win, I tells I don't lose much. Branson owns his own private island in the British Virgin Islands called Necker Island. It is a spectacular property and was featured in the last episode of The Rebel Billionaire on the Fox. The island was on sale for 30 lakh euro a few years ago. Branson's starting offer 1 lakh 50,000, 95% off the list price. His offer was laughed at, but a few weeks later he bought the island for just 1 lakh 80,000. Needless to say, Sir Richard has had a very spectacular Dhando return on his vacation home investment over the years. Now you and 13 other friends can spend time on Necker Island for just 30,000 per night. With minimal downsides, failure rates don't matter to Sir Richard Branson. Even if half these ventures fail or never scale up, it doesn't matter. There is virtually no money put into them to begin with. Venture capitalists ought to look at the Virgin model because the Virgin model is the VC model of the future. Branson is an ultra low risk, ultra high return VC. People keep feeding him ideas and he acts on a select few. He gets large equity stakes, sometimes 50-50 equity stakes in these businesses without putting any money in them. In some cases, like Virgin Atlantic, it is 100% stakes with very little invested. There are two words that encapsulate Branson's journey. Virgin Thando, like his twin brother Manilal and Papa Patel. Branson is all about heads I win, tails I don't lose much. So, guys, here I completed the third chapter of the Dhando Investor book, and that's it. In the next video I will start the fourth chapter of this book, the Dhando Investor. I will complete this book. I will complete one chapter in each videos because the book is very short. See the pages here. I don't see the pages, but the pages are very less, so I will complete this book very fastly. So guys, if you liking my videos and these videos are helping you to increase your English communication skills, please subscribe the video. Please subscribe the channel and share with your friends. Thank you guys.